Hey guys, welcome back to the Paladins Alliance. Pickups went well. The challenger stage is completed, and sure, I mean, a lot of people dogged on me for not picking Mauser OG or some of those international squads. But I'd like to think I got pretty close to 8 out of 9. Forza and Payne both made the 2-2 matchups and just fell short in both of their best of threes. I thought they could take it over the line, but they couldn't. Of course, the Gamer Legion pick was a huge flyer. I'm really happy that they did actually qualify for the next stage. But all things said, we got everything done. We got the 5 necessary to get the silver coin, and we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to start with the Legends pick. Again, most likely to least likely in those bottom 7 that I'll start with, and then we'll go to the 3-0, which I'm picking as the risky flyer pick, a pick that could potentially surprise and go all the way 3-0 after winning those 2 best of 1s and a best of 3, or potentially crash out and not qualify altogether. And then finally, I'll end with that 0-3, and that is a team that I think just cannot stack up against most of the opposition and will fluke out. My first pick that I'm going to be taking through is G2. Ever since that slow start that they had against Mongols, they didn't necessarily look back. And they're doing it off the back of not even Nico's high skill performances. It's m0NESY. m0NESY played unreal over the last couple of maps that G2 played in the challenger stage. They've now warmed into things. They don't have to start slow. They feel comfortable. They have a little bit of time to rest as well in between stages. They don't have to feel uncomfortable, that we have to, grind through and go through the challenger stage the hard way, having a lot of momentum under them. And again, I have them as one of the favorites to potentially win the entire tournament. So why wouldn't I put them into qualify for the legend stage altogether? So G2 is pretty self-explanatory here. The next team I'm going to put through is the other Katowice finalists in Heroic. I think that they've done a lot of great work over the last couple of months. They've shown that they're not a team that necessarily gets upset all too much. And as far as consistency goes, I feel like they are the best team in this entire tournament to potentially go all the way and get a deep playoff run. They will be one of those teams that I have when we get to the Champions stage that I put them into the next stage of the tournament, if not always. And it's just because of just what Cadian has built. It is a system that doesn't rely on one particular player, and that they can kind of have a system of cogs, of players that work together in tandem and in harmony, that works very well and is very risk averse. And for that reason, I'm going to have Hero going through. I don't really see a world where they drop the ball and they don't qualify for the playoffs. I'd be very surprised if they do, of all the teams here. The next team that I'm going to pick through is FaZe. I think that, again, they also had quite a slow start against Monty, and it was a very tough matchup. We've discussed about it ourselves. A lot of pundits have discussed about it themselves as well, about how dicey that matchup could have been and how it could have potentially spiraled FaZe out of control. But FaZe really stuck the landing. I mean, of course, they had that tough series against ENCE, but ENCE showed some real quality CS there. And matchup-wise, they didn't necessarily have the best maps in their pool there, FaZe. But overall, again, a very strong team. They should have all the pieces to smash through the competition and find a way to qualify for the playoffs. Of course, they're also going to have a tough matchup in the very beginning, best of ones against Heroic. But if they go down 0-1, maybe even 0-2, I still have a lot of faith in them to grind back in the best of threes and qualify for the playoffs. And that's where, once they get to the champion stage, if they do, I think that's where all the pressure is shed off. And that's where you see the best of FaZe come to full effect. And that's why I'm going to have FaZe going through. The next team I'm going to put through is Navi. Navi hasn't missed a playoff in a big tournament in quite some time. And with how they've been ramping up as of recent, of course, their RMR performance going 3-0, absolutely smacking through FaZe. It was really awesome. It was really awesome to watch. And you can definitely see the form of NPL has risen leaps and bounds. And that alone has risen the floor of this squad. And making sure that, BIT, NPL are a little bit more comfortable. Now Simple can stretch his legs out a little bit more and start putting up some huge numbers. You've been seeing how competitive he's been at Rio, the numbers he's been putting in, the hard carry performances that he's returned to. I'm just excited to see a potential return to form for Simple. And of course, Simple has still been performing well, getting decent enough ratings, but we haven't seen those Simple level numbers. And I think that we're due for that as of right now, and I think we're going to find it yet again. So I think Navi, even though that their floor can be surprisingly low, I think it's definitely shot up a lot more. By hook or by crook, they found a way to limp their way into playoff stage regardless of the form of the team. And you can't go wrong with the firepower that's on this roster. You've got Simple, you've got Electronic, you've got BIT. And now even Perfecto has been stepping up, getting into different, more powerful roles. And I think Navi will have enough of stuff to get it over the line and qualify for the playoffs. The next team I'm going to have through is ENCE. I think that they've shown a lot of grit and determination to build a system from scratch. And Nertz is the real deal, man. Nertz is the real deal. He has figured out how to play under Snappy, and Snappy has found a way to re-harness that energy that he had previously with Spinks. Of course, it's that Israeli blood. And I don't know what it is, man. The similarities in their playstyles is pretty apparent. And honestly, in some ways, Snappy has found a little bit more out of Nertz in the kind of aggression that he's been letting him off the leash, trying to take a little bit more opening duels. And it's been working out very, very well. I think now you've been seeing high tier performances from Madden as well. I know a lot of people have been writing him off, but he had a very, very high rating at the challenger stage, showing that the aggression is driven by him. And I think that he's been performing out of his mind. That's always a good sign. And of course, Diha's always been a rock. Sunpius now feeling a little bit more comfortable on that CT side, finding a way to brandish some opening attempts as well as being a rock on certain bomb sites. And I think that overall, it feels as though this ENCE roster is ramping up very well. Of course, going 3-0 is always nice. And I think that with the competition that's here, with the map pool that they have at this point, now that they fixed up Anubis, I think that they're looking really, really good to qualify for the playoffs and potentially eclipse that quarterfinal run that they had at, I believe, Stockholm. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's either that or Antwerp. I'm not sure exactly. But regardless, ENCE is the real deal, and I think that they're here to play, and I think that they'll be able to qualify for the Paris Major playoffs. Vitality will be my next team. I think that the Rio win is obviously such a huge boon for them to qualify, but we have seen the collapses that have happened after they won EPL. They collapsed shortly after. But I think this is a little different. I think there's a lot more to play for all of these players in attendance, and even for Zonic as well. I mean, of course, you've got Apex and Zayu as the only French representation in this entire major. Even in the challenger stage, I don't believe there was any French representation, so it means a lot to kind of wave that red, white, and blue flag and go into the major crowd and play in front of your home crowd. It's very rare that they have that opportunity, and of course, it's that last major. And what a story would be for Apex and Zayu to lift it in front of their home crowd. And beyond that, you look at Dupree looking for that major number 5, Magisk major number 4, Spinks potentially to be the first ever Middle Eastern player to lift a trophy. I think they've poured in so much time and effort to go and look at this tournament and see it as an opportunity to completely wash away all of the narratives that they have leading up to this tournament. And you can definitely see that with the interviews, with the conversations, with how they've been boot camping, how they've just began the structuring of this team. They've all said all signs point to Paris, and that is what we are leading towards. All the other tournaments don't matter. And that kind of passion, that kind of energy fuels a lot of these players. And I feel as though it should be enough to showcase that they've got what it takes to go over the top. And obviously in the server as well, you're seeing Spinks starting to ramp up, starting to show that caliber that he had previously on ENCE. Magisk being an absolute rock and showing that he has what it takes. And Zayu, man, he's been unreal these last couple of months. And sure, you know, he's struggled in majors. Sure, he's disappeared in playoffs, but they've been getting to those playoffs. And I think that's largely off the back of Zayu's performances. And I think right here, right now, I think Vitality will be able to do it. My last pick here, it's a flyer. It's a flyer, and I'm going to pick 9. And I definitely think that there are a lot of people that will not agree with me on this pick. But I will be taking them to go through to the next stage. And why is that? Many of you might not have even heard of this squad in a little bit of time. But this team has been showing a lot of prowess. And of course, they're the first ever Polish majority squad to join since VP way back when at the FaZe London Major. And that team didn't even have the Golden 5, the dubbed Golden 5, not the actual Golden 5, but it was a hodgepodge lineup that had the spot given over because of a previous major, because of Krakow, and for that reason only that they were there. But regardless, that's neither here or there. I want to talk about 9 and the kind of foundation and system that both Minio and Naurat, the IGL and coach respectively, have created on this roster. It's a roster that doesn't necessarily have a star player. It doesn't necessarily have the flashiest firepower either. It is just very concise, efficient, beautiful Counter-Strike to watch in full display. It's very much a sum is greater than its parts type of team. You look at the kind of maps that they play, and they've got this very active CT style that they've borrowed from Heroic, where you've got always something happening on the map for them, either taking a part of the map, giving a part of the map away, trying to vie for retakes, playing the numbers game, making sure that they keep their economy in check. Very measured CS, and it showcases how good that Heroic system can be if implemented well. And very similarly to Heroic, they don't necessarily have a true all-star player. They've got a lot of really smart, intelligent pieces, though. You've got Kay and Kylar putting up some incredible openings for this squad. You've got Goofy, a very reliable anchor for this squad. You've got Hades, who's been clutching as he did previously on ENCE, but also putting up some massive numbers. He is that quote-unquote stallion for this team. And I think overall, you look at their map pool, they're going to get into a lot of these middle ground maps that I think that they can go over the edge. You've got maps like Overpass, maps like Mirage, Nuke, Anubis, that they could all fall back on, that there's very few holes in those best of ones for them to fall into. And on top of that, they've got the second seed in the entire Legend stage. They're going to get a lot of favorable matchups if they have to go deep into those 2-2-2-1 matchups. They're going to get those, your BNEs, your Apexes, your NIPs, Fanatics. And I think that they can go toe-to-toe, especially because, they have Vertigo in the chamber. Vertigo, I don't know if you guys knows this, but, I think it's been the talk of the town for quite a little bit, but they've been unstoppable on Vertigo. They've been beating so many huge teams on this map. They've been showing that they've got such a handle on it. They might be straight up one of the best, if not the best team on Vertigo right now. And that alone is such a huge boon in those best of threes to have a leg up. And now that they've had time to work on their Ancient, which is a map that, if I did have to talk about being an extremity, is an issue for them overall. But they've had time to boot camp. They've been working at it for quite some time. And they'll definitely patch up Ancient at this point. And at that point, it's going to be really hard pressed for other opponents to find chinks in that 9 armor. And that's why I'm going to take the risk, and I'm going to put 9 to be that next team to advance. My 0-3 pick is going to be ITB. I think that this one is a risky one. I don't think there's any safe 0-3 pick in this Legend stage. All of these teams are capable of winning a best of 1 or even a best of 3. We've gotten to that stage where Tier 2 is very competitive, and it's possible for some of these teams to get that done. I would go through why I don't necessarily pick the other teams here. Fnatic had a very tough, much the opposite. They had a very easy RMR. I think it was like Viperio and Bait in their matchups, and they really struggled as well. I don't necessarily think it was clean. They've got some issues with Fasher and Nikodas not being necessarily a tier 1 opper, but regardless of that, you've got reliable pieces like Crims, like Roy, and Mezzi, and that core alone fills me with enough confidence that they should be able to edge out at least a map victory here or there. But I don't think they're necessarily playoff ready. I think that Fnatic should have what it takes to get a map here or there. BNE, of course, the talk of the town is that they are also one of the front runners to go in 0-3, but I made that mistake in the last major, and this team is very, very strong in majors. And add in, Devil Walk. Look, I know I've spoken to this guy personally, and I really believe the vision that he has when he gets on these teams. He's got a huge passion under him when he goes into these tournaments, and I think that he's got a lot in store to kind of patch up some of the inconsistencies of these squads. And you've got to look at BNE's LAN performances previously. Sure, they're not winning these tournaments, but they're going deep. They're qualifying for the finals, at least for all of these lineups. And of course, they're watching the last hurdle. But we're seeing a surprisingly more consistent BNE. And I think that is going to spell disaster for a lot of these lower echelon teams. And I think they'll be able to get it over the line and win a best of 1 or even a best of 3 at this rate. I'm not going to pick Apex either. I think there is some experience in Cuban, and now Kixan is slowly starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. And now you get into the comfort zone for players like Jacob to be let off the leash. You saw what kind of damage he did in the Challenger stage. And now JL and Knock have also put up some great performances. I think they've got enough firepower, and they've definitely been showing that they've got enough of a map pool to get at least a win here or there. They got to the 2-0 to the 2-0 stage as well. So I think they got what it takes to get out of the gates thick and hot. and I think their first matchup is against ITB, and I believe that map will go to Inferno, and I feel as though I do like the fundamentals of Apex more so on that map instead, even though they got blown out of the water by G2. Monty, of course, I talked about all the firepower that they have on this roster. Boros and Waro2K have been playing unreal, but even Demka has had an unreal challenger stage, and the fact that he's been stepping up as well, who knows, man? I mean, I think that they can play spoiler to a lot of teams at this legend stage, so I'm not going to put them in either. And Gamer Legion, of course, a huge risk. I don't think that I'm going to take that either. Shuhei has done a really resilient job to pick up some lesser European talent and carry them down 0-2 in the challenger stage and beat some really tough opposition in Mouse and OG. So I think that credit to them, but I don't think they'll be able to qualify for the playoffs, but I think they'll be able to go toe-to-toe in the legend stage itself. And of course, this is why I come to 0-3 as ITB, where I don't necessarily know if there is enough strength in the terms of the firepower in this lineup. You've got Cypher, but keep in mind, I've got to give credit to him. He's a real awesome player to watch when he's on form. An incredible aim on his shoulders, huge accuracy in that first bullet. But at the same time, it is his second ever LAN. And for this to be a second ever LAN, I mean, the pressure is absolutely astoundingly high at this point. And beyond Cypher, I don't necessarily know if there is another player that I look towards to be consistently getting them numbers and getting them impact to go over the top. Tactically, I don't necessarily know if they're the most savvy. They've got Juve as a coach, who I think he's done good work to get this lineup together, but they've got Thomas as the IGL, who, as far as I know, is not the most capable IGL, especially it being early days for him in that role. And I just don't feel as though ITB has what it takes. They've put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to get to this point, and I've got to give them credit to get their stickers in and be that first UK majority team to get here. But I don't necessarily know if ITB has what it takes to get a map victory and to stay within contention at the Paris Major. The last team that I'm going to pick here is Furia. They're going to be my 3-0 pick. I think that what they showed at the RMR was a new style, a European style where they kind of pull art back. They play a little bit more standard CS. And sure, it's not the fireworks style Counter-Strike that we'd love to see from Furia for so long. But it has been getting them results. They fought for that legend spot tooth and nail, and they came out on top pretty comfortably. You can see that Yuri, Quesarado, Safe, that core has slowly started to gel a little bit more. Obviously, Quesarado having one of the best performances in terms of rifling across the board in international Counter-Strike. And that alone bodes well, that they can start off really hot and they can just burrow through all this competition. But that being said, bringing in this type of a play style this close to the major, of course, they had that RMR, and they didn't necessarily, and they had Rio as well, showing some performances there. And I do think that they can qualify for the playoffs, definitely, just with the kind of repetition that they've had in previous majors. But I do also see a world where it backfires and the European style does not gel completely. Players start to fly off the hinges a little bit and try to go above and beyond and break through that, and it falls apart at the last moment. But I would like to see Furia push for another playoff run, and I would love for them to be that 3-0 team, and I hope it's possible. But these are going to be my picks. It's risky, and I definitely think that the 9 pick is a little risky. The 3-0, the 0-3, definitely risky. But I do really hope that this is the bracket that we get for the major playoffs, because, dude, it's the last one, and I do want to see all of the best teams there battling it out and have that best possible bracket to end off with a bang. And I hope we can get there. I know there's gonna I definitely don't think that this is going to be the final bracket. There's definitely going to be heartbreak along the way. There's going to be a lot of teams that play spoiler, but regardless, I still really hope that for the sake of our game, we get some incredible matchups to end out CSGO's cycle. And we've got a lot of great round 1 matchups to look forward to. Heroic, FaZe, G2, Vitality as well. So a lot to look forward to, man. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you continue along this path with me. We'll try to push for that gold. Maybe we can get the diamond. Maybe we can risk it. But until then, this has been Paladin. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave an angry comment because my pick'ems doesn't look like yours. because, you know, it's always fun to look back on it after the stage is over. But regardless, stay tuned. Champion stage pick'em will be out soon. And enjoy the major, guys. Enjoy the major.